Today we're going to be breaking down the entire book of Bill. Now this book is dark, breaks down moments of Gravity Falls, and reveals a lot of truths that we never knew. It gives us the history of Bill, the relationships that he had, where he's at currently physically and mentally, so stick around to the very end so we can figure out where he's at. Stanford Pines at the very beginning of this book literally warns the reader that this book will change its perspective depending on who's reading it, continuously rewriting itself. He even then tells us how this book will affect all the other books around it. And we see cases of this in the real world with a TikTok account called Oregon Parks. The Book of Bill is literally in the middle between all these other books, and it's literally infecting it within Barnes & Noble.
Barnes and Noble better call an exorcist.
Funny enough, I bought the regular edition online and I realized that Barnes & Noble has a special edition, so I drove an hour out just so I could get the special edition so I could make a rightful video about it. So make sure you guys leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Now we start off this book by summoning Bill because Bill is the being that's writing this book for us. He also denies ever dying. He's not really giving us an answer. He says yes and no every time in the book we ask. We literally flip the page and then he just says he's completely fine. Bill being unimpressed with the cover of his own book, he shows us a bunch of other iterations that could have happened, and they're all just replicas of other covers. Now to continuously read this book and read the secrets that Bill has to give us, we have to donate some blood, put our blood onto the page. And we find out by the end of the book that this was a lie. We never needed to donate blood. We're literally giving blood to Bill so he could read our minds. But that's a conversation for more towards the end of the video. Now in the beginning of this book, Bill is hilarious. He even shows us a fake apology he made on YouTube for the apocalypse that he created. He also insinuates that he's the father of Phineas and Ferb, and that's really weird because they're not blood related, they're literally stepbrothers. But this also makes sense because Phineas has a Dorito shaped head, which is perfect for the pyramid we're talking about currently. Now we also learn anywhere on the planet that you create a symbol of Bill's cipher, he's able to see through it and gain more power through it, which is something we literally see in the new Disney short that just dropped. Bill was accidentally summoned through the dollar bill, and then we see him actually come out in real life. And this is very interesting because in the book of Bill we literally see him talk about why he's on the dollar bill. The founding fathers made a deal with Bill's cipher, how he's going to control the government. They went back on this deal, so Bill then gives everybody their nightmares. So to make a deal to stop the nightmares, they decide to put him on the dollar bill. And we're talking about a being on the very next page talking about how he eats gods and seduces galaxies. Yeah, you heard me right. Seduces galaxies. And then when we get to the page talking about Bill Cipher's weaknesses, he literally freaks out, rips the page out of the book, and makes us read The Great Gatsby. I'm not kidding. You'll literally turn the page for 6 pages and it's only The Great Gatsby until Bill comes back and says enough of this. Now this is when we get to the secrets of the universe, and then we find out that the multiverse itself is literally a holographic card. Bill first shows us the multiverse in its actuality, how confusing and coiled up a big old mess that it is, but it's just a holographic card that an unfathomable being outside of time owns, and his name is Dennis. And then Bill says every time everybody feels dizzy or there's an earthquake, it's literally Dennis taking the card out of the backpack so he could trade it with his older brother Kyle for string cheese, to where Bill claims that string theory comes from this, which also means that Dennis and Kyle have the ability to end the multiverse itself whenever they desire. That's pretty intense. In fact, these two guys might be more powerful than the axolotl or Bill Cipher ever could imagine. Now Bill finally gets to his defeat in Gravity Falls. He was able to use a curse, aka his plan B, to save himself right before his official death. Now the moment we're talking about is when Bill Cipher speaks a bunch of gibberish within the show. But when you actually rewind it, he's actually using a curse, a spell, to go to the axolotl to save his life.
XOLOTL! My time has come to burn! I invoke the ancient power that I may return!
He talks about how he's too annoying from hell, basically saying that he's banned from it. He also talks about how there's heaven, but he won't tell us how to actually get in. Then he goes on to talk about one of his most powerful abilities, and that's to see parallel dimensions. He talks about how they exist in the one timeline out of the infinite ones where they weren't drowned, shattered, slaughtered, just killed in every way possible. Then he shows all the alternate versions that were killed within the show and explains that maybe one day their luck will actually run out. And we see the specific iterations of the children if they just didn't survive the episodes that they were in. Like we see Phantom Scissors and Dipper's back, and that's the episode if Mabel didn't come in time to save him from Gideon. We see Mabel as the gnome queen, meaning that the gnomes actually killed Dipper and she became the queen. We see Dipper with Bill Cipher's eyes, we see them as zombies. These are just all the iterations that just die. And this really shows how many situations the kids survived that were way too close. And then Bill shows us all the monsters that still exist in their world, like Slender Man, who's just slandering Bill Cipher every chance he has. Then we have the off model, who's absolutely terrifying. Right here he's trying to look like Dipper Pines and he names himself Dripper Pines. Then we have Bill, who could be summoned by leaving spaghetti with freshly grated Parmesan cheese in the woods. He then shows us the mirror realm, and you can't read this page unless you really put it up against a mirror, or if you just flip the page or invert it within your camera. Bill here talks about how him and Bloody Mary were actually a crazy duo, but now she hates him and blocked his number. Bill goes on to show us multiple ways that we're able to contact him, and the one that's really funny to me is the fun phone, a toy that we see children use consistently. In fact, we even see this fun phone within Toy Story 3. Imagine if Woody dialed the right number talking to this fun phone and then accidentally summons Bill Cipher. I mean, they're both within Disney as well. Using this badass triangle to defeat Lotso, the Mafia Don, the pink teddy bear that smells like strawberries. That's pretty crazy. Bill then goes on to tell us that he has a cult of followers and claims that cult means Cypher's unquestioning leagues of total sanity. He then goes on to try to control our minds and possess us, and then he goes on to explain why possessing people is actually really good, which is really interesting because he also talks about how he can possess Time Baby later on, but we're gonna get to that because there was a whole war between the two of them. What is crazy is that puppets were alive in the Gravity Falls universe. The last one died in 1622 and they were hunted to extinction by the Dutch, which means every puppet that you see alive is literally their skinned pelts, and those are Bill's words, not mine. He also talks about how there's secret colors and numbers, and there's an audience in a parallel universe watching us and laughing at all of our mistakes. Now this is where Bill talks about the mindscape, and this is very important because this is one of his most powerful abilities that allows him to come into the real world. He talks about how there's a secret back door that connects all consciousnesses. Whenever you hit the REM cycle in your sleep, you're basically connecting your mind to Bill Cipher's. And then he gives us little glimpses of everybody's dreams within Gravity Falls, or just the main cast that we know. Like Dipper's dream is his parents fighting right before they were sent away for the summer. Now it makes sense why they were sent away. Bill also goes on to say that Mabel has the most powerful dreams out of everybody within Gravity Falls, some of the most powerful he's ever seen. When he goes into full detail about Dipper, it's all of his embarrassing moments, just ruining his life in every way possible. And then when he gets to Mabel's side, he talks about how powerful she is, how she's a chaos agent. She bends headbands and reality to her very whim. He talks about how she ascended the astral plane by eating expired sugar. Now this is very important because we figure out something at the very end of this book, because the expired sugar that she eats allowed her to see the Smile Dip Dog. Now this is very important because by the end of this book we find out that the Smile Dip Dog is one of the most powerful beings within all of creation. So this asks the question, did she actually see it? Was he entering her mind? What was this? Now knowing how powerful Mabel is, he did everything to try to enter her mind and she just wasn't having it, so he made a deal with her to extend the summer. Bill also entered the mind of Old Man McGrucket, but this almost killed Bill. He said he's never been in a mind like this, and it was like a collapsing neutron star. That his mind was so dangerous that fragments of his memory were whizzing around and went right through Bill and left a hole in him that's actually painful. Now we get to the actual backstory of Bill Cipher when he was born. Bill was born in the two-dimensional dimension, and he talks about how everybody loved him. Now obviously this is very biased because it's coming from Bill's perspective, but he talks about how the mayor of his world dedicated an entire day to him because everybody loved this character. He says he has a perfect childhood and there's no way to actually humanize him. But I don't know if that's exactly true, because then he talks about how he's not just smarter than everybody in his dimension. But I don't know if that's exactly true. Now he talks about how he's not only smarter than everybody in his dimension, but he was also born with a rare mutation. A mutation that allowed him to see the third dimension. No one understood it when he talked about different directions, like up. He would constantly look up to the stars and say that he wants to be one, but no one ever knew what he was talking about. Now talking about the third dimension is illegal in the second dimension, but Bill says he knows everybody would be grateful if he just showed them what he was talking about. Then this is where everything goes very static and Bill just blacks out while speaking. From what we can see with their phrases, we see him say their screams getting louder and louder as I, so much blood, so much, my hands shaking as I realized I could never undo, was the last one breathing, until there was no one left but me, covered in blood, alone in the universe. He then says he freed himself from their suffocating world and freed everyone else too. They all loved him for it. He always blacks out. He represses this memory because it was so gruesome. And if you really think about it, this is one of the most gruesome beginnings for any antagonist, because it literally starts off with him unaliving an entire dimension simply because they can't see the way he can see. He wanted everybody to be freed from their biased perspectives because it was illegal and no one understood Bill, and he just completely lashed out, which means even his parents. And we see later on in the book of Bill, when Bill was very drunk, he mentions his mom and how much he misses her. Now we're moving on to Bill's more older years when he's in the nightmare realm, just causing destruction with all of his henchmen. In fact, he talks about all of his henchmen and what they are and their powers, and you could go read that for yourself, because there are way too many no-name mother truckers that I just don't feel like talking about. Now, they were absolutely insane. Bill would literally cause two planets to collide just to pretend that they were kissing. But the nightmare realm lacked physics, and this was very bad, because that also means that it was unraveling at its seams, unstable, and isn't a place that they could be for much longer. Now, this is where Bill wanted to come to Earth, but there was a big problem in the way, and that was Time Baby. Now, yes, within Gravity Falls during Weirdmageddon, we see Bill Cipher one-shot Time Baby. Now, it wasn't always like this, because this is Bill at his strongest. He's never been able to one-shot Time Baby, let alone defeat him like that. And even then, it'll take Time Baby a few thousand years to remake himself, so he wasn't officially done. But let's talk about the original war that happened millions and millions of years ago. Now, Time Baby is the guardian of the main dimension. Pronilius Infinitum Titanicus, the Infinitive, is always protecting Earth. Time Baby's army has the capability of aging you backwards, pausing you in time forever, or even stopping your plans before you even thought of them. This 2-billion-year-old baby is the last surviving son of an extinct race of chrono giants that were tasked with controlling all of time. Now, Time Baby pulled up to the Nightmare Realm and had an all-out war with Bill Cipher to prevent him from coming to Earth, but this was a trap. The physics of the Nightmare Realm was not something that Time Baby was used to, so he was already at a disadvantage. Their brawl destroyed 6 planets and caused radiation that's still picked up to this very day. Time Baby spat in Bill Cipher's eyes, used him as a teething ring, and almost killed Bill by suffocating him in his cheek, but Bill distracted him with a duck, which is when Xanthar, who's labeled as a Lovecraftian god in Bill's description, punches Time Baby out of the Nightmare Realm into Earth. Now, this caused the extinction of dinosaurs. Yes, Xanthar punched him so hard, it punched him through the Nightmare Realm into Earth, causing mass extinction, which is also the reason why Time Baby was frozen on Earth. Now, with Time Baby out of the way, Bill had to wait for evolution to take place so he could trick a human to get him to come. Now, Stanford talks about how Gravity Falls has its own physics, how it attracts anomalies. We even see land orcas exist in Gravity Falls, and they're absolutely terrifying to look at. Now, the first human to ever interact with Bill Cipher was a shaman, the wisest of his tribe. Now, the shaman was beyond excited to make a deal with Bill. They worked together and taught each other many things. Bill showed them secrets. They would carve his symbol onto spears and hunt down micro mammoths. But then Bill started showing glimpses of what he's really like. He punched a hole in the ground, causing the bottomless hole that we see Stan always use. But everything changed after the shaman saw a vision of how Bill Cipher and his henchmen treated the Nightmare Realm, and he canceled the deal. He then banned Bill from the valley with ancient sorcery. The shaman then painted on caves, warning everybody about Bill, warning them about the beast with just one eye, then creating the prophecy and the 10 cosmic symbols, which are represented by the group that we know and love within Gravity Falls. But this didn't stop Bill's search. He continuously tried to find people throughout the years, like he went to Egypt. The reason the pyramids exist is because Bill created them. He went to the pharaohs, he went to the Aztecs. It wasn't until he went to the Dark Ages and found a dark wizard / warlock. His name is the Unpronounceable. And after I decoded what was said on his hat, it says Titan's blood. So Bill offers him a deal, my boy X accepts. He says he'll work with Bill for all this power, but the amulet that they need is guarded by the king's security. But the amulet that they need is guarded at the king's treasury. This is when Bill pulls up and tricks the knights that were guarding it. Bill tells the knights that he'll make them king if they go find him a DVD in the woods, which they all go do. So the knights assemble a team called the Knights of Cipher. But this is when they figured out that it was all a lie. So the knights swore to destroy Bill Cipher even if it took 1,000 years. But it also turns out that the wizard was lying to Bill this entire time too, and actually traps him within an orb and destroys the portal. Now stuck in this orb, he has Bill Cipher dancing for his ex and the king, causing Bill to get so mad that he burned straight through it. He then possesses the wizard's phoenix and burns down the entire castle, and then he gives the entire realm nightmares for 100 years. Now Bill gets banned throughout most of Europe through magic and curses. He even caused the war between Atlantis and the Lobster King, which forces Bill to come back to America. He even caused the Witches' Rebellion that fought against all men. Now what's absolutely crazy is that Bill Cipher claims that he was Remy in Ratatouille with Abraham Lincoln. Not that he was actually the rat, he's saying within Abraham Lincoln's big ass top hat, he was under there pulling his hairstrings to make different types of pasta dishes. And that might have been the last straw, because we see an anti-Cipher society be created afterwards. They try to hunt him down, even perform exorcisms, and even created the Bill hunting suit. But society viewed these Bill hunters as a joke. They were the laughing stock of everybody, and we see these in newspaper articles. They even went as far as to put him in mental asylums. Now we start to get in more modern eras, because Bill starts hanging around nuclear testing ranges. Because after a nuclear explosion, his portal opens up for about 3 hours. Even the military didn't know what to do with Bill, and they were forced to burn down records of him. Then more years go by and Bill tries to go with other people. We even see in the 80s when computers started to be created, he started possessing people that way, but everybody that he would possess just ended up killing themselves. So Bill finally started to give up. In fact, he was going to tell Daryl the Lobster King that fought against Atlantis to drown the entire planet. But that was until one of his most prized possessions came into the picture, someone that he considers smart and dumb at the same time, Stanford Pines, aka Sixer. He entered his mind and found someone whose IQ was off the charts, a human that was destined for so much more. But it's not just that he was super intelligent, more so than any of his peers, it was also the fact that he was lonely. He was alone and no one cared for him on the planet. So this just allowed Bill to creep his way into his life so much easier. Now within the book of Bill, Bill Cipher shows us the missing pages out of the Journal 3 that were ripped out by Stanford Pines. The first page that was ripped out was Ford talking about how lonely he is, how no one actually cares for him, how everybody's just talking shit behind his back. In fact, at the bottom of the page, after I decoded what was said, is just him being jealous of Stanley, saying that Stanley could make these women laugh, he can't. The second page is talking about his interaction with Bill Cipher, talking about how he made contact with a god of knowledge from another dimension. Now these pages onwards is literally the two of them glazing each other, how Bill talks about how Ford is destined for so much greater things. Now this relationship between the two of them goes on for an entire year, how they work together, how perfect they are together. Bill is literally feeding off of Stanford Pines. After a year, Ford looks at the calendar and realizes that it's his birthday. No one remembered, no one told him anything, no one actually cared. Except one person. One person remembered when Ford didn't even remember himself, and that was Bill Cipher. Leaving a present for him, and even then saying that I could give you a drink in your dreams that would make you drunk. Time goes on, Ford talks to Bill, talks about how he actually has a twin. Bill says, you should have ate your twin in the womb, therefore you would have been so much more powerful than you are now. And within Journal 3, we see Bill Cipher mention Time Baby once again, how Time Baby was still frozen in ice, and then talks about his home dimension and how it's destroyed. It was destroyed by a monster. And all that's left of this entire dimension is this little speck that he shows, the last atoms of his world. Fast forward, we see more missing pages of Krampus. We see Ford and Old Man McGrucket when he was still sane defeat Krampus and save the children that it was going to eat. Then we see Stanford have dreams about the past beings that Bill Cipher tried to control. Now he didn't know what this meant until he actually figured out what the truth is. And after he realizes the truth, he destroys the portal, cancels the deals that he made with Bill. Now he tries to go destroy all the journals, tries to burn them, and then he realizes that he can't because there was so much hard work behind them. So then he researches ways to actually defeat Bill. Things that he can do, things that he can't do, things that will actually stop him. He even found journals of the old anti-Cipher society and takes the Bill hunting suit and makes the Bill proof suit, which is an upgraded version. Now this gets Bill really mad and he wants to prove that he still has control over Stan. Now this gets Bill really mad and he wants to prove that he still has control over Ford. So then he possesses his body and makes him do a lot of things in the nighttime that Ford will never remember, but he videotapes it and takes pictures of these moments. So this is when Ford goes to Stan for help, and we all know the rest of the history. Now Bill was so hurt that he lost Ford, which seems like he actually had a relationship with him, that he got drunk, and then he saw someone on the phone with the police, picks up the phone, and then starts speaking to his mom, who's no longer alive, talking about what he regrets and how he misses home. But then Bill says that he found one human even better than Ford, and that's us, the reader. He wants to take over our bodies and then kill everybody on the planet, starting off with the Pines. But right after that page, we see Stanford, Stanley, Dipper, and Mabel's notes to us talking about how not to trust them, how they still love each other. and how they're going to destroy him if he comes back again. So Bill starts tweaking out really bad, and he's really mad. Then we finally get to the juicy stuff. We finally get to the interaction with him and the axolotl. Allow me to read these direct passages for you guys. Bill talking about how he's still not dead yet. Now he's in a tank outside of space. The opposites met face to face. Just one shot to live again. He pled his case to his old friend. So Bill goes on, look, from one god to another. Who cares? I try to kill those brothers. They're all ants. It's all a game. Let's press restart and try again. I'm too cool and fun to die. Just give me this angle one more try. Get it? He's a triangle. The axe sighed in a knowing way. He expected this was what Bill'd say. You cannot regrow through denial. You'll have to face my hardest trial. See my program to the end. Then you may yet live again. Am I fighting demons, eating ghosts? You're getting what you need most. One way to absolve your crimes, to change your form, will take some time. Now Bill could not believe that he got off scot-free. He said this salamander was a schmuck. This is gonna be so easy. I'll be free in no time. And Bill shakes his hand, and then we get a glance at the Thea prison outside of time and space itself. Now we see Bill in there with a bunch of other gods and demons also going through the same process he was. Now the Thea prison's reacting to Bill making this book to us and says this isn't allowed. We know what he's doing. We're going to give him 5 more minutes of this, and then we're going to take this book away forever. So Bill starts to freak out because this is the last message he could send us as the reader to save his life. But before that, we get a glimpse of the inpatients that are recently there. Now there's a lot of creepy beings there, a lot of demons and ghouls, but there are 2 people here that have maximum security written above them, and that's Bill Cipher and the Smile Dip Dog, whose decoded message is the Beast. He is the Beast, and we see Mabel interact with him in a memory-ish dream world. Why is there expired candy created about this powerful monster? Does he have any influence over this? What does this actually mean? Is he trying to leak into people's dreams like Bill does? That's why he was there for Mabel. I got way too many questions, and I don't think any of them are going to be answered, so let's continue. So now Bill's talking about how we betrayed him and that he's going to come back, and he's going to come back with vengeance. He doesn't need 1 million followers. He doesn't need 1 billion followers. He just needs 1. And then we see in the darkness Bill saying, I'm fine, and I'm fine. Someday, someone will let me out. Now the axolotl references that he will change, take a new form. Maybe Bill might come back as a completely different entity that we won't actually recognize. But that's a discussion for another video because I have a lot of theories to talk about. Make sure you guys like the video, comment down below, and subscribe for more.